Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here with us today. We would love to know where you're tuning in from by using the chat. I am in sunny St. Petersburg, Florida. Welcome in. We're going to go ahead and kick things off. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Massage Magazine Insurance Plus webinar series in session. You might also recognize us as Massage Magazine or MIP for short. I'm Shannon, and I'm so excited to be your co-host today as we celebrate Massage Therapist Appreciation Week. If you're new to MIP, we're an all-inclusive liability insurance provider for massage therapists, bodywork professionals, Reiki practitioners, and more across the United States. Our mission is to support you with quality coverage that gives you peace of mind in your practice. But we don't stop at insurance. We also offer a wide range of exclusive member benefits, including discounts on industry products, up to 50 free CE hours with our partner Neil Asher, and other amazing continuing education opportunities, as well as a wide range of valuable resources tailored with the massage and bodywork community in mind. To learn more, I'll be dropping our website link in the chat for easy finding. Quick housekeeping tips. A reminder that today's webinar will run for 1 hour and it is being recorded. The recording will be emailed to everyone by tomorrow. Today's webinar is also expected to be eligible for CEU credit through the NCB TMB. Approval is currently pending and expected very shortly. Instructions for earning the CEU will be included in a follow-up email. We encourage you to ask questions, so feel free to use the chat or Q&A feature, and we'll be monitoring both throughout. We'll also reserve the last 10 minutes for a Q&A session. With that said, let's dive in. The topic of today's webinar is the Cornerstone of Care, Cultural Competency for Client Retention. Please join me in welcoming our host, Kirby Clark Ellis, a licensed massage therapist, instructor, educator, and advocate with over 12 years of clinical experience. A dedicated leader in the field, Kirby has spent over a decade refining a clinical approach that balances technical mastery with deep human connection. Welcome, Kirby, and thank you for tuning into MIP's In-Session webinar series.
Thank you so much, Shannon, and to everyone at Massage Magazine Insurance Plus. I'm going to go ahead and get us started here, see if I can share my screen and jump right into things. So again, this is the Cornerstone of Care, Cultural Competency for Client Retention. And before we get started, let's ground ourselves in some shared definitions so that we have a common language to engage in this conversation with. So
Alert from Keynote. Continue to share this Keynote window using Share Play.
So cultural competency is the ability to understand and respect the values and beliefs across different cultures and respond effectively and appropriately. I'm going to pause my screen share here for just a second. I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing my full screen. Sorry, everyone, about that. So understanding and respecting values, attitudes, and beliefs across different cultures and being able to respond effectively and appropriately. Cultural competency is the road to inclusivity. So it helps to establish and build strong relationships among other individuals with varying life experiences, their perspectives, and it helps to foster diversity and creates an environment of inclusivity. And this is not just something nice to have either, because cultural competency training is in place at many United States medical schools and hospitals. So it's become a standard because it directly impacts outcomes, safety, and trust with clients. So, in a diverse society, clients bring a wide range of cultural identities, beliefs, and lived experiences into our practices. These differences don't have to create barriers, but they will require intentional and ethical care. Ethics matter because professional codes of ethics help to ensure safe, respectful, and equitable treatment for all clients. Ethics help to guide decision making when cultural differences, boundaries, or misunderstandings arise. In short, ethics are what guide us when we don't have easy answers available. Your role as a practitioner is to create a space that is safe, inclusive, and most importantly, client centered. So reflect on your personal values and your biases and how those have the potential to impact care. You should also recognize that gaps in knowledge or sensitivity can cause unintentional harm or discomfort for clients. Recognizing that is what's known as cultural humility. So let's talk about something that's uncomfortable but necessary to acknowledge biases. We all have them. A bias is easily defined as inclinations for or against something, often for or against people, places, groups, but could also be a bias for or against circumstances or concepts. These biases can be positive or negative and are often shaped by the culture that we share and our lived experiences. For example, you probably are already feeling a positive or a negative bias based on my presentation so far. And that's okay because having a bias isn't the issue, it's acting on it without awareness or intention. Prejudice is easily understood as preconceived judgments that are not based on either reason or previous lived experience. These often lead to unfair assumptions about individuals or groups, and at its worst, prejudice can lead to discrimination. Bias happens automatically, but prejudice and discrimination are choices that we make. Like microaggressions, which are subtle, often unintentional comments or behaviors that convey dismissive or devaluing messages to marginalized groups. These can appear as jokes, assumptions, or harmless remarks, but they nevertheless have the potential to cause harm. Healthcare professionals may overlook microaggressions due to either overconfidence or a lack of self awareness. Always remember that you can mean well, but still cause harm. The key takeaway here is that awareness is your first step. Ethical client centered care is going to require ongoing reflection and intentional behavior moving forward. So there are two main kinds of bias. There's explicit, or sometimes referred to as conscious bias, which is deliberate, aware attitudes or beliefs that a person has about a specific person or group of people. Explicit bias is often overt and recognizable both to the person who is expressing the bias as well as to others around them. So, an example of explicit bias could be the use of slurs, outright stated preferences, or clear generalizations that they make about others. Implicit bias, on the other hand, is often automatic, learned associations that operate without a conscious awareness. It happens without you even thinking about it. And they may contradict your stated values and show up in other subtle behaviors. For example, you might treat people differently. You might make assumptions, engage in microaggressions, or patterns in who you choose to include or exclude. A little note, implicit is the preferred term over unconscious, because when you use the word unconscious bias, it gives the impression that the bias can't be recognized and therefore can't be changed. Key reminders here are that our perceptions are shaped by our culture and our lived experience. Bias is a function of the brain. It's not a moral failure, but it does require accountability. Because bias feels automatic, it can often go unnoticed without being in the practice of reflection. And always remember that intent does not equal impact. Good intentions don't prevent harm. So, our brains are designed to take shortcuts. It's our brains are actually kind of lazy, to be honest. But the way that our brains take shortcuts is necessary, and it happens incredibly fast. So, stereotypes are widely held, oversimplified beliefs about a group of people. They are a result of how the brain naturally categorizes and predicts. Stereotyping can be helpful for brain efficiency, but it's risky when it's applied without critical thinking to individuals. So, why this happens? Brain science tells us that the brain is energy intensive and it relies on shortcuts in order to conserve metabolic resources. So, it uses pattern recognition and past experiences to quickly interpret new information and new data it's being fed. So instead of asking, what is this? The brain often asks instead, what is this most similar to that I've experienced or seen before? This helps to speed up decision making, but it can often lead to inaccurate assumptions. So the risk involved is that when left unchecked, stereotypes can shape expectations, behavior, and decision making, which can lead to discrimination, which is the unjust or unequal treatment of individuals based on their identity or group identity. Some professional takeaways here are that stereotypes may be automatic, but how you respond to them is a choice. So pause and assess. Ask yourself, am I treating this client as an individual? In massage therapy, harm can occur through communication just as easily as it can occur through unskilled touch. Finally, ethical care requires awareness, reflection, and intentional action. The work ahead is a marathon, not a sprint. So the brain learns, we know through that humans tend to overweigh negative experiences while underweighing positive ones. This can reinforce fear, those assumptions, and biases if the patterns are not left unexamined. So the goal isn't perfection, it's growth. You will make mistakes, and what matters is your willingness to be able to reflect, learn, and adjust. Stay open to feedback and take accountability for impact, not just what your intention was. Ongoing awareness is key to advancing inclusion and equity. Clients' rights and professional boundaries. Clients have the right to respect, dignity, and safe care. Boundaries protect both the client and the therapist. Be mindful always of the power differential in the therapeutic relationship. And setting clear boundaries and having policies will help support you in addressing discrimination and inappropriate behavior when it shows up in your treatment room. Let's zoom out for a moment here. The bodywork industry, as of 2020, was valued at approximately $542 billion. The global wellness economy, which includes massage and bodywork, is currently valued at around $5 trillion. But representation in massage is not as reflective of the population that we serve. In the United States, the massage workforce is predominantly white, and smaller representation of other races break down like this. The profession is also largely female identified. These estimates are based on industry reports such as the AMTA and the Global Wellness Institute. Exact figures can vary by year and by source. However, the US population is more racially diverse than what the US massage workforce is. Massage therapy and healthcare more broadly has not historically been fully inclusive. Workforce demographics can influence access, representation, and client comfort. Avoiding conversations about diversity and bias can only reinforce disparities and further limit who feels welcome in our care. So engage with these realities openly and thoughtfully, and expand awareness to help serve more diverse communities with equity and respect. So research published in the IJTMB in 2020 identified that racial and gender disparities in massage therapy utilization. So that means racial and ethnic minorities are less likely to receive massage, and the profession is often culturally associated with white women as both practitioners and clients. So industry perception matters here. Common imagery such as spa settings and luxury environments reinforce the idea that massage therapy is a luxury service for affluent white clients rather than accessible healthcare intended for all. These perceptions influence who feels welcome, who will seek care, and ultimately who will choose to enter the profession themselves. The impact is clear. Reduced exposure leads to lower familiarity and trust with massage, which leads to fewer individuals from underrepresented groups pursuing massage as either clients or as future practitioners themselves. This contributes to ongoing disparities in both access and workforce diversity. So, some reflective questions that I urge you to, when you review this material, take some time to really sit with and think about are: how do you demonstrate awareness of your clients' cultural identities in your practice? And how might your space, your messaging, or your branding be experienced by these underrepresented communities? So, why does this matter in the first place? There are 6 key concepts that I want to introduce you to. Gaps in care exist, so many minority communities have limited access to services that reflect their cultural needs and their experiences. Diversity, however, will improve outcomes. A more diverse workforce will only increase client satisfaction and foster a more inclusive profession. Representation matters. We know that clients will seek providers who look like them. They often report greater trust, engagement, which leads to improved health outcomes. There is a pipeline impact as well. Representation in our profession will encourage more diverse individuals to pursue massage therapy careers. This is also evidence-informed direction. Research from related health professions shows us these patterns consistently, so offering a strong foundation for growth and future study in massage therapy. And finally, this all leads to better client care. Cultural humility will build trust, increase comfort, and help uncover concerns that might otherwise go unspoken. This isn't just ethical, but it's also practical. The premise of health equity is that all people, regardless of their background and circumstance, deserve the best quality care in order to live their fullest potential for well-being and good health. Trust drives retention. Diverse teams increase client confidence and trust. When clients don't feel represented or understood, they're more likely to leave your business. Better thinking equals better solutions. So when you bring diverse voices into the profession, it introduces broader perspectives, which leads to more creative problem solving and better decision making. You can't meet every client need without every voice being included. So inclusive decision making is essential to understanding and serving a wide range of client experiences. And consumers are paying attention. A majority of consumers say that diversity and inclusion influences their purchasing decisions, especially in younger generations. 60% of consumers overall feel that diversity and inclusion are important. 72% of people aged 41 to 56 feel this way, and 76% of younger adults do as well. The business impact is measurable. Research across other industries show that diversity is associated with increased innovation, productivity, and financial performance. Uh, Projections indicate that the United States is on track to become a majority minority between the 2030s and 2040s. So making cultural responsiveness, it's not only an ethical imperative, it's also a business imperative. Loyalty and relationships matter. Underserved minority communities often show strong brand loyalty when they feel seen, respected, and well served. And inclusion must be authentic. Stated commitments to diversity without meaningful action will erode trust over time. Sustainable impact requires ongoing, visible inclusion efforts, not just messaging. When we talk about cultural competence, we're also talking about access and equity. This isn't merely theoretical, this affects real people. So, 45 years ago in 1981, two professors on public health, Perchansky and Thomas, conceived what they called the 5 A's of access to care. They are availability, so think, is the right care offered in sufficient supply? Are there enough providers in the area? Are needed specialties or modalities available? And do appointment openings exist within a reasonable time frame? The second A is accessibility. So think, can the client physically reach the care they need? Is there distance to the provider or geographical location? Are there transportation options or are there barriers to transportation? Are mobility considerations, such as those presented by disability or chronic pain, present? And do parking, public transit, and building access affect their healthcare accessibility? The third A is accommodation. Think, how well is care organized to fit the client's needs? Think scheduling systems, online, ease of use, hours of operation, are evenings or weekends available? Language access, are interpreters or translated forms available for clients? Flexibility for cancellations, walk-ins, or urgent needs. The fourth A is affordability. Think, is the cost manageable relative to what the client's resources are? Service pricing and transparency, nobody likes hidden fees. Insurance coverage, are reimbursement options, are those available? And what about sliding scale or payment plans? Also consider the indirect costs, time off of work, time to find and provide childcare. And the fifth A is acceptability. Think, does the client and the provider both feel comfortable with each other? Cultural competency and respect is key here. Also think about client preferences, including gender, communication styles, and values. And finally, trust in the provider and the profession as a whole, perceived safety, dignity, and inclusion. It's important to remember that these 5 factors form a chain that's no stronger than its weakest link. So improving just one of these factors won't significantly improve access if the other 4 factors are not also addressed. So the next several slides will give us context and, again, a common language to engage in a conversation about race and ethnicity and beyond. So race is a classification system that was constructed to distinguish between groups of people based on physical characteristics that are deemed important by a society. And when I say deemed important, for example, we categorize race by skin color rather than other physical characteristics like eye or hair color, for example. It's important to remember that humans share approximately 99.9% of DNA regardless of our race. So physical traits like skin color exist biologically, but the racial categories that we created are socially defined. It's important to understand that race was often used historically to justify unequal treatment and the exploitation of certain groups. Famously, for example, Italian immigrants were not always socially considered white in the United States. They often face discrimination, segregation, and even violence, despite legally being counted as white on US censuses. Ethnicity, on the other hand, is a term that is used to describe shared culture, shared practices, values, beliefs, language, and ancestry all factor into what we talk about when we're talking about ethnicity. So, for example, Judaism doesn't fit perfectly as a religion, race, or ethnicity, or even a nationality. It's a religion, but not all Jewish people are religious. It's passed down from parents to children and can bear recognizable genetic characteristics, but Jewish people comes from all kinds of racial backgrounds. So for that reason, anthropologists often describe Judaism as an ethno-religion. Jewish people can belong to any race, but many share a partial ancestry. Another example of ethnicity are Japanese and Vietnamese people. They're both considered Asian, which is a race, but they represent different ethnic groups that have their own distinct languages, cultures, and histories. Other examples include Hispanic, which is a term that describes people whose heritage originates from Spanish-speaking countries, and Latino, Latina, Latine, and Latinx are terms that refer to someone whose heritage originates from Latin America, including the United Mexican States, Latin, Central, and South America, and much of the Caribbean. It's important to know the difference here. So, not all Hispanics are Latino, and not all Latinos are Hispanic. So, for example, being from Spain would make one Hispanic because they are from a Spanish speaking country, but not Latino because they're not from Latin America. While being Brazilian would make one Latino because they're from South America, but not Hispanic because Brazilians actually speak Portuguese and not Spanish. Another example, two people from the same ethnicity can be from entirely different races. For example, Cameron Diaz and Celia Cruz both have Cuban heritage, making them Latina or Hispanic. But Cameron Diaz is typically categorized as white, while Celia Cruz is often categorized as black. So, if that's race and ethnicity, when we're talking about racism, it includes beliefs, thoughts, and actions that are based on the idea that one race is superior to another. Recall that this can show up in explicit or implicit forms. Institutional or systemic racism are patterns within policy, institutions, and social structures that produce advantages for some racial groups while disadvantaging others, even without explicit individual prejudice involved. This was highlighted by civil rights activists Stokely Carmichael and Charles V. Hamilton. Because institutional racism operates through systems rather than individuals, it can be less visible and harder to recognize, and therefore more challenging. It can be most prevalent in health and wellness professions because it is not the result of one individual's actions or their racial animus. Historically, POC, or people of color, were consciously omitted from policies, laws, and systems in order to oppress them. Examples of this include Jim Crow laws and redlining in the United States. Civil rights legislations like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 sought to address these inequities, though disparities persist in many areas today, and voting rights are also being challenged and rolled back recently. Even individuals who did not create these systems may still experience their effects or their benefits depending on how institutions distribute opportunity and resources. Researchers have also examined how medical research and professional standards historically reflected dominant culture norms, sometimes leading to gaps in representation and health outcomes across racial groups. So the concept of good health has often been determined by white, European, cisgendered, and able-bodied standards. So some more opportunities for you to contemplate later. How might healthcare have looked for enslaved or impoverished people? How does access, affordability, and representation still shape that care today? What impact might police violence have on mental and physical health of clients of color? How might it feel to not see providers who look like you in massage and body working? And what does representation signal about the client's belonging and their safety? How have dress codes and professionalism standards historically excluded certain cultural expressions? Why are certain forms of language or slang labeled as unprofessional? And who defines what is professional? In some cultures, rest comes only after all work has been done completely. So, what happens when work is never considered finished? And how can massage therapy be reframed as healthcare, not a luxury? Luckily, there are some opportunities for growth and some steps that we can take. Start with auditing your practice. Could your intake, pricing, or policies unintentionally be excluding clients? Is your location accessible? Think transportation, hours, and costs. Does your space reflect diverse representation in your marketing, artwork, and even your staff if you have it? Are referrals, scheduling, and payment options easy and flexible? Also, engage your community. Show up in culturally specific spaces such as festivals, events, and local organizations. Offer chair massage, of course, education, and outreach. Advertise in multiple languages and in diverse media outlets. Collaborate and advocate. Partner with organizations who are already doing the work of equity. Support them with your time, your platform, and if you can, your funding. Build relationships with healthcare providers in order to integrate massage further into care. Examine your tools even. Are your products and materials inclusive of all skin tones and all body types? And use your influence. Start conversations within your own communities. When those with privilege speak up, it can shift norms and expectations. So advocate for equity, not just as an individual, but systemically. Another opportunity is consider supporting the Black Massage Therapy Conference. Their next one is scheduled for October of 27 in Phoenix, Arizona. When we talk about inclusion, LGBT clients are also a part of that discussion. So here's a simplified exploration of the different groups that make up the LGBTQIA acronym. Lesbian is a term that is often used to describe women or female aligned people who are attracted to and have relationships with other women or female aligned people. Gay is sometimes used as an umbrella term for all sexual and gender minorities, but is most used to describe men or male aligned people who are attracted to and have relationships with other men or male aligned people. Bisexual and pansexual are often confused for each other or used interchangeably. Bisexual is something of an umbrella term for someone attracted to and having relationships with two or more genders, and pansexual is a term that is used to describe someone who is attracted to someone regardless of their sex or gender. Transgender is a term that is used to describe anyone who doesn't identify with the sex and or the gender they were assigned at birth. This is often abbreviated to AMAB for assigned male at birth or AFAB for assigned female at birth. And this is regardless of the status of their transition. A transgender person who is living their life as a woman is known as a trans woman, and a transgender person living their life as a man is known as a trans man. On the other hand, cisgender is a term that is used to describe anyone whose gender identity does match the sex and or gender that they were assigned at birth. Queer questioning. Queer is something of an umbrella term that is used for sexual and gender minorities. However, it can sometimes be viewed as a slur when it's used by people who are outside of this community. Queer can also describe someone whose identity is either fluid or can include multiple identities. And questioning is a term that is used to describe anyone who is in the process of exploring or questioning their sexuality and or gender identity. Intersex is the correct term that is used to describe someone who was born with several, absent, or ambiguous sexual characteristics. And the US intersex population is around 2%. That's similar to the amount of people who have green eyes. Finally, asexual or allies. Asexual is a term that is used to describe someone who does not experience sexual attraction to either any or all genders. An ally is a term that is used to describe a person that is outside of a minority community, but who acts against oppression in the belief that eliminating oppression will benefit members of vulnerable groups as well as the advantaged groups. To talk about pronouns, these are words that take the place of proper nouns. Everyone uses pronouns, and all pronouns are valid. Most common ones are he, him, and his are pronouns that are commonly used for male or masculine identified people. Examples include, he arrived late for his appointment, and I couldn't fully accommodate him. She, her, and hers pronouns are commonly used for female or feminine identified people. For example, her appointment was for 1 hour, but she wanted to know if hers could be a 90 instead. They, them, and theirs pronouns are commonly used for non-binary or genderqueer people. These are used respectfully when you don't know a person's gender or pronouns and have always been used in the singular form to refer to just one person. Examples include, they wanted a facial after their massage, but we're all booked up. What should I tell them? Remember that you never know a person's gender or their pronouns until you either asked or you're told explicitly. There are also other pronouns that are known as neopronouns that are less common in use, but are nevertheless every bit as valid and should be respected. Some best practices with pronouns include asking someone if they don't voluntarily share them. It can be harmful to make assumptions, and alternatively, you should be in the habit of providing your own first to make it clear you don't make assumptions. When talking about someone to a family member, friend, or colleague, it's important to continue to respectfully use the correct pronouns. If someone corrects you for misgendering them or another person, avoid getting defensive or making a big deal about it. You can just politely apologize and move on. Keep in mind that correcting pronouns is not an attack on you, but it's a reminder of that person's identity. Mistakes are normal. You're deconditioning a social norm, and that takes time. And like most skills, you won't immediately be perfect, but practice always helps. You should never ever refer to someone as their incorrect pronouns with malicious or rude intention, even if you don't like them as a person. And finally, keep looking for ways to educate yourself and other cisgendered heterosexual people around you. I would also include those who are not cisgendered or heterosexual. Educate everyone. To talk a little bit about transgendered massage clients, gender transition is not about changing who you are, but it's about aligning your outward expression with one's gender identity. Transition is not a one size fits all. It can be broken down into three major categories. Legal, so think documents like birth certificates, IDs. It can be a social transition, so when a person changes their name socially, introduces themselves with different pronouns, or they start to wear different clothing or make different appearances to their physical appearance. And finally, medical, which can include the use of hormones or the use of surgeries. It should be noted that not all trans people who undergo all or any forms of transitions, however, their transition and their identity is still valid and should be respected. Massage can be a way to support transgender clients through body awareness, comfort, and promoting a sense of safety, offering affirming and respectful touch. Massage consideration for the transitioning client may include client preferences around language, draping, and body regions of focus, scar tissue, nerve sensitivity and numbness, swelling for postoperative clients, limited range of motion, positioning considerations, and pain. Language matters. So get in the habit of referring to people, at least in your mind, with they, them, and their pronouns until you're made aware of the pronouns that they do use. Avoid assuming gender based on appearance or voice alone. Instead of using gendered honorifics like sir or ma'am, just get in the habit of dropping them off completely. So instead of how can I help you, sir, try how can I be of assistance? When you don't know, instead of assuming someone's gender or pronouns, use they, them, and theirs, or find a way to refer to them in other ways. So instead of she is in the waiting room, try they are in the waiting room, or the client is in the waiting room. Instead of assuming a person has a mom and a dad, try using gender neutral terms instead. Instead of what are your mom and dad's names, you could ask what are your parents or your guardian's names. And instead of assuming that a person is married to a person of the opposite sex, Again, try using gender-neutral terms. Instead of "do you have a wife," you could try instead "do you have a partner, spouse, or significant other?" Small language shifts can significantly increase client comfort, trust, and safety. Often, it's not about saying something perfectly. It's about demonstrating that you care and that you're trying. Another opportunity to contemplate. Historically, what might healthcare have felt like for closeted or openly queer individuals? How has the response to HIV and AIDS crisis from the 80s to now shaped the trust that is experienced in healthcare today? How do homelessness, job insecurity, and discrimination impact physical and mental health? How would you respond if a client requested prenatal massage after they previously presented to you as male? Do your forms, language, and training support this? Does your marketing use heteronormative language, for example, his and her services? What assumptions might that signal to clients? How have the transgender community, especially trans people of color, been overlooked, even within LGBTQ plus spaces? And finally, most transgender people often share stories of driving far out of their way just to find businesses with single stall bathrooms or gender neutral ones. What impact could a non gendered restroom have to make sure that all feel welcomed? There's opportunities for growth here too. So introduce yourself with your pronouns. You can add them to your email, social media, and business cards, and be in the habit of using the gender neutral language you've already talked about. Consider that your client may be estranged from their birth family, so traditional small talk about family might make them uncomfortable. Use inclusive advertisements, posters, pamphlets, signage that might include rainbow signage or enamel pins that demonstrate that you're invested in safety. Ensure non-discrimination policies for staff as well as the clients related to sexuality, gender identity, or expression. Emphasize to clients that their privacy will be respected and that their information is protected. Have gender-neutral restrooms available. Support and collaborate with organizations that advocate for LGBTQ issues. Attend Pride events that are often held in June or October. Again, you can offer chair massage, set up a booth, educate and encourage the local LGBT community about massage therapy. Include a space on your intake form for clients to provide the pronouns that they use, and if you're in a shared practice, document that for colleagues. Ensure transgender clients are equally covered by company health insurance. If cisgendered employees have access to hormone therapy, then trans people should also have access for medically prescribed treatments. Anything less than that is discrimination, plain and simple. To talk about religious sensitivity, religious and cultural limitations aren't as obvious as physical traits of someone's body, the language they speak, or how they dress. Religious limitations are often more subtle. So these religious considerations shape comfort with touch, how clients feel about modesty, how they can interact with genders, and the body in very subtle but significant ways. So address the client's view of massage therapy, explain the benefits of massage and draw distinctions of what massage therapy is not. Give the client a chance to reveal their religious or cultural limitations in order to help build trust. The 2020 US Census recorded religion as 42% Protestant, 21% Catholic, 18% unaffiliated, 6 and 5% agnostic and atheist, respectively, 2% as Mormon and Jewish separately, and then separately 1% of identified as Muslim, Hindu, or Buddhist. Given this background of diverse religions and cultural traditions, it's important to be sensitive and attempt to understand how massage is viewed by and can fit into different faiths. Luckily, there are also opportunities for growth here too. So avoid assumptions is first off. Beliefs about touch, healing, and the body can vary widely across faiths. Start with curiosity. Ask questions like, what is your experience with massage? Try to find respectful common ground while also honoring their differences. Avoid one-size-fits-all care here. Use open-ended, client-centered questions. Examples include, are there any cultural or religious considerations I should be aware of that would make you more comfortable? Clearly explain what massage therapy is: professional, therapeutic, consent-based, and what it is not to address misconceptions. Offer choices in draping options, same gender practitioners whenever possible, including reaching out to your referral partners, and possible body regions to avoid. Create space for disclosure. Trust increases when clients feel safe naming their boundaries. Examples might include, is there anything I can do to better respect your beliefs or to increase your comfort? But maintain professional boundaries. Do not assume that you share beliefs with someone, and don't initiate proselytizing your own religious views or values. If religion does come up, center the client, listen with respect, avoid dismissiveness, and support, don't challenge, their worldview. Finally, foster dialogue that is inclusive for clients, colleagues, and others when you have to be in shared spaces. Keep the focus on respect. It doesn't have to be about agreement or alignment of faith or worldviews. Another thing to think about are the aesthetics in your clinical spaces. So it's common for massage environments to include spiritual or religious imagery, symbols associated with Buddhism, such as the Buddha statue, lotus flowers, and chakras, or Christianity, crosses, Bible verses. The question isn't about which tradition is being highlighted, it's about how it might impact your clients. So pause and evaluate. Does your space reflect a specific belief system? And if so, how might that feel to someone who doesn't share that belief system? Could visible religious or spiritual messaging influence a client's sense of safety or belonging? Are you creating a universally welcoming environment or one that signals a particular worldview? Best practices include prioritizing a neutral, client-centered space that welcomes people of all faiths or people of no faith. Be intentional. If you include personal or spiritual elements, consider their visibility and the potential impact they could have. Finally, let inclusivity guide your design choices, just as it should guide your communication and your care. Uh, Disability is incredibly diverse, and so are the client needs here. Disability is a condition that may affect a person's mobility, their sensory experience, their cognition, or their emotional functioning, and how they navigate their daily life. Types of disability include physical, so think mobility limitations, amputations, chronic pain or chronic illness, vision or hearing impairments. Cognitive or neurodivergent disabilities, think autism, ADHD, learning differences, and brain injuries. Mental or emotional disabilities could include depression, anxiety, PTSD, dyslexia, or other mental health conditions. And these disabilities may be congenital, meaning that they're present at birth, or they could be acquired, such as through injury, illness, or aging. Some disabilities require the support of some form of accommodation, assistance, or supports. Disability experiences vary widely, even within the same diagnosis. Isolation and loneliness can affect those with disabilities. Depression can be an especially common companion that is associated with acquired disabilities as they adjust and cope. So some potential massage benefits, of course, include supporting pain and stress reduction, relaxation, and improving range of motion, helping to address compensation patterns for mobility aids or altered movement, can enhance body awareness and their self-image, provide safe, compassionate touch, which may reduce feelings of isolation or loneliness, even if it's just temporary. It offers comfort for clients with a history of invasive or traumatic medical experiences. Collaborate and communicate. When appropriate, coordinate with clients' caregivers or their other healthcare providers. Use clear, flexible communication with clients. So pick up on verbal, nonverbal cues, and again, be mindful of your check-ins. For clients that have communication differences, observe their body language and their tolerance closely. Always prioritize client comfort, consent, and their feedback. Mobility considerations include conditions that may impact mobility, such as spinal cord injuries, stroke, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, traumatic brain injury, paralysis, and limb loss. And finally, aging and chronic conditions may also affect mobility and require accommodation. The Americans with Disability Act, often referred to as ADA, came out in 1990, and it provides guidelines for public accommodations for those with disabilities. It includes specific requirements for business entry as well as throughout public facilities. So accessibility isn't optional, it's a part of ethical professional care. Ensure that your space supports safe navigation and safe transfer. Think doorways, hallways, table height, and restroom access. When clinic access is limited, consider in-home or medical settings, such as hospital or hospice settings, or other accessible locations. Be prepared to adapt. Sessions may occur on a table, a massage table that is, a bed, or in a wheelchair. Ask before assisting. Would you like any help getting on or off the table? Follow the client's guidance and stay within your scope, your own ability, and your safety limits. Use tools that improve access and comfort, such as bolsters, positioning supports, and consider investing in hydraulic or electric tables if you can. When you meet someone with a disability, before you ask them anything about their abilities or their limitations, it's best practice to share something about yourself and talk about how you might perform that specific action. Some limiting mindsets: referring to disabled people as inspirational for doing everyday activities can unintentionally reinforce bias. It might suggest that you don't expect disabled people to participate in ordinary life, that you hold lower standards or assumptions about their capabilities. You view disability as inherently tragic or limiting in all contexts. You value disabled people primarily for how they can inspire others, rather than as whole individuals. So shift your mindset. Recognize disabled people as multidimensional and not defined by their disability. Focus on respect, autonomy, and lived experience, not inspiration. Let the client define what is meaningful or challenging in their own lives. Some person-first language. So some words to avoid: instead of disabled person, try person with a disability. Instead of low functioning, say greater support needs. Instead of normal or healthy person, you can say person without a disability. Instead of nonverbal, you could say communicates without using words. Instead of he has a problem with, you can instead say he needs or he uses. Instead of saying she's learning disabled, you might say she has a learning disability. And instead of using the R slur, slow, simple, moronic, defective, or special person, you can otherwise use person with an intellectual, cognitive, developmental, or disability. Opportunities for growth when working with people with disabilities. Ask, don't assume. What accommodations or modifications would make this session most comfortable for you? Be prepared to adapt. Positioning, pressure, pacing, communication style, and even the length of session. Respect the client's autonomy. Clients are the experts on their own bodies. Access and inclusion matters. Consider physical access, so think entryways, tables, and restrooms, and sensory environment, such as lighting, noise, and touch preferences. Use person-first language like we just talked about, based on the client's preference. Provide a space that supports dignity, agency, and connection instead of pity. This is some inclusion general guidelines. So build trust through client-centered care. Listen deeply, validate client concerns, and remain aware of your own biases, always seeing care through the client's perspective. Protect dignity and privacy. Ask only what is clinically relevant. A client's right to privacy outweighs curiosity. Evaluate underrepresented voices. Support and promote professionals from diverse backgrounds across education, leadership, and practice settings. Invest in learning and partnerships. So engage in ongoing cultural humility training and collaborate with organizations that are committed to equity and social justice. I cannot speak enough about articles that MMIP have published that were helpful in creating this course, as well as the terrific work that HealWell is doing. Strengthen workforce diversity, recruit intentionally, that is, create welcoming environments, and provide mentorship and support for retention. Expand access through education. Increase outreach to underserved communities about the benefits of massage and career pathways. Align your values with your actions. Ensure that your business practices, partnerships, and financial contributions reflect a genuine commitment to equity. Keep it practical and sustainable. Inclusive practice doesn't require politicization or major expenses. Small, consistent actions can also create meaningful change. A little bit about boundaries and shared commitment. Address harm consistently. Racism and intolerance should be treated with the same seriousness as sexual misconduct, and your policies should clearly reflect this idea. Establish shared expectations up front. Use your intake forms or other agreements to outline standards of respectful behavior. A safe space is open to all people, but not to all language or all behavior. Normalize this boundary. Just as we clarify that massage therapy is non-sexual, we can clearly state that discriminatory language or behavior will not be tolerated in our spaces. Do you have a clause or a space on your intake forms where clients acknowledge these understandings and expectations? It can be as simple as adding 1 to 2 lines in your intake forms. Prioritize equity over retention. Maintaining a safe, inclusive environment is more important than keeping or accommodating an inappropriate client. Respond in the moment. If a boundary is crossed, address it directly but professionally. Name the behavior as inappropriate, set a clear expectation for moving forward, reinforce your commitment to a respectful space, and follow through when needed. If behavior continues, remind the client that you reserve the right to end sessions and discontinue services. Inclusion doesn't mean that we have to tolerate or accept harm. Safe spaces rely on clear boundaries and shared responsibility. So silence sends a message. When you freeze, ignore, or just let something slide, that can be interpreted as permission or worse, agreement. Interrupting matters. Even calm, brief disagreements can disrupt harmful behavior and set a clear standard for your space. Prepare so that you don't freeze. Practice responses. Examples like role playing can help you build confidence and reduce in the moment hesitations. Call people in, not just calling people out. So address behavior without shaming the person. This keeps the door open for further understanding and the potential for change. Use neutral, clarifying language. Can you help me understand what you mean? And then repeat what the client said. I want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly. And again, repeat what you heard the client say. That kind of language isn't something that we use here. Don't assume intent, but address impact. So start this communication with curiosity, but be clear about your boundaries and expectations. Stay professional and grounded. You can set firm limits without judgment. Clarity and consistency are what create change. And with that, I will try to stop my share and go into Q&A sessions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kirby.
Thank you. How do we do on? Right up to the end.
Yeah, it's no worries at all. Really great information that you had to pack into one presentation. So I really appreciate that. The feedback that we've been getting from our participants has been amazing. Very appreciative of all this amazing knowledge that is just so, so important and valuable. So thank you again, Kirby, for your time and for modifying the presentation to make it a little bit shorter because it's just a wealth of knowledge and things that everybody I think should be aware of, whether you're a massage therapist or just a person. So I know I gained a lot of really valuable insights that I can take with me into my own personal world and apply it to others as well. So Thank you so much. Really, really amazing. Um, So cool. We are getting a lot of thank yous. We are doing a Q&A, so if there are any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I did get a question. I think that they wanted, so Teresa said, this is an amazing presentation, seriously, but am I the only one waiting for an answer to that prenatal massage question? How would you go about that?
Hmm. Uh, I don't have a clear-cut answer right here. One resource that I will point you to that I think would be helpful is oh gosh, what are they called? There's a Facebook group. I think they're called Safe on My Table or Safe at My Table that I would highly recommend. If that question hasn't been, I would be surprised if that question has not been specifically addressed by people who have a much higher understanding of that situation than I do. Um, if that hasn't been answered already, I'm sure that people will have great resources in that group there for you.
Awesome. And then I am getting some questions about the recording. Just want to reiterate again, and thank you, Anna, in the chat for answering the question of, is this recorded, the CEU credit, all that good stuff. Thank you for the backup. Another reminder that this is recorded, and it will be included in the post-webinar follow-up email, along with the link to the presentation slides itself. So there will be a dedicated webinar page with slides. So the links will all be included in that email. And then as far as the CEU credit goes, we're just waiting on final approval from NCBTMB. So that should be coming through very, very soon. So there will probably be just a separate follow-up email to all of you with all of the instructions on how to claim that CEU credit. So it will be very simple and outlined, and all the details will be there for you. So you will be receiving that in addition to the post-webinar follow-up email. Cool. It looks like we have one question that came through. Are there tactful resources to share with the community to help with all of this? Where I live and work currently, this may not be known or understood.
Yeah, definitely. Again, the number one place that I'm going to point people is to the incredible work that Healwell is doing in massage therapy. Their bread and butter is hospital-based work, but they have, I mean, like changing societal norms is one of their driving forces, and they also have pretty affordable online CE courses that cover these topics. Again, it's where like I didn't have all of this information just at my fingertips too. It's stuff that I've learned. Massage Magazine, Insurance Plus, they have articles that have been written before. AMTA and ABMP both have online courses as well in diversity, inclusion, equity, cultural competency that I would recommend. And I haven't checked, but I think I have my full course in this topic with this information and a little bit more in depth. I think I have a recording of that available on my YouTube, but I wouldn't swear to it. I need to double check and get it uploaded if not. But those are the first things that come to mind for me.
Awesome. And then I'm going to drop these links in the chat, the Society of Massage Archives and the kcemassage.com. So in case anyone wants to look into your new project, and additionally your website, I dropped that in the chat, and it will be included in the follow-up email as well.
Awesome. Yeah,
Awesome.
and I'd love to connect with people. If you couldn't ask a question here because you felt a little shy, I totally understand that. I have that every once in a while myself, and it's a heavy topic. So if you have follow-up questions and want to get in touch with me directly, I'm happy to field questions or try to find you a resource that'll help you out some more than I can.
Awesome. And then we did have a question from Ashley. As for advertising, how would you make sure you are inclusive to all demographics? Pride flag on brochures, as far as racial or cultural inclusion, I don't know where to begin as I live in a predominantly white Christian area. I'm not sure if I'm asking this in a great way. You are. I understand.
At least you're asking it is step one. I would also say give yourself a break. That is a huge burden to task yourself with to advertise to everyone. But yeah, I think some of the things that the question mentioned, rainbow signage, pride flags is helpful. But again, finding those, whenever that I talk about advertising in minority-based publications, the first thing, I don't know, it's probably pretty costly, but like the first thing that comes to my mind is something like Ebony Magazine. I know there've got to be other more local or regional uh, publications that you could reach out to and try to figure something out that way. Primarily, I think finding those publications that are reaching those demographics is going to be a better step to take than trying to advertise to everyone. I would niche it down that way, I think.
Awesome. Great. Well, I think that this will conclude our webinar for today. I like to end things with some comments from the chat. I wanted to mention this one from Anna. This is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. Great way to start Massage Therapist Appreciation Week. Just a lot of really great feedback. Thank you, Kirby. Knocking it out of the park, Kirby. Thank you so much. Love it. I love this amazing feedback. So with that being said, Kirby, thank you again for your time. Thank you everyone for joining. So be on the lookout for those two separate emails, the post-webinar follow-up with the recording and the slide details as well. And then we will be following up with how to get your CEU credit. So thank you so much. It's our first webinar for Massage Therapist Appreciation Week. And we're very, very grateful for Kirby's time today and for everyone joining. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Massage Magazine Insurance Plus, and happy Massage Therapy Appreciation Therapist Appreciation
Woo! We appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much.
Week.
Bye.